And much of the same is expected from the champions. Tonight we discuss the latest in Major League Soccer and Sporting's next opponents, the New England Revolution.
And it goes to Colin! History and hysteria inside the walls of Sporting Park. MLS Cup dreams have come true. It's Sporting Blue.
The Sporting KC Show on Sports Radio 810 WHB is brought to you by your Midwest Ford dealers. Visit them at your MidwestFordDealers.com. And by the Missouri Lottery. Play it forward with the Missouri Lottery.
Coming up on the show, it's all about the next opponent. We speak with former Revs midfielder Benny Feilhaber and current Revolution revelation Andrew Farrell to preview this weekend's match. Plus, we cover all the headlines throughout the global game. It's the Sporting KC Show on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Callum Williams here, the voice of Sporting KC. Joining me in guiding you through the next hour, Andy Edwards of MLSsoccer.com. Andy, good evening.
Hello. And
Carter Augustine of SKC TV.
Gentlemen.
We're live on Sports Radio 810. You can also catch us online at 810WHBTV.com, and we're on Roku TV tonight as well, so make sure you check us out on Roku TV. Joining on the debate, tweet at us, at Cal Williams SKC, at Andy Ed MLS, and at El Jefe Augustine, or indeed give us a call, 913-3810-810. That's 913-3810-810. To the most emphatic win of the season so far, we go. Sporting Kansas City beating Montreal Impact by 4-0. A thoroughly convincing performance. Andy, what did you take from the game?
I'm going to preface everything I say with this right here. Montreal Impact are dreadful. They are very, very dreadful, and I take no pleasure in saying that I predicted this weeks ago when I asked the very simple question, what is the point of the Montreal Impact even at this point? And we saw on Saturday, they are a team going in the wrong direction. So early in the season, it really looks like for those fans up there, it might be a very, very long season. They just kind of have to get through and hope that there's light on the other side of the tunnel in 2015. 3 shots in total for Montreal on Saturday, 2 on target. This is a Montreal team that came into the game leading the league in shots taken per game with 16. 3 again on Saturday. Sporting Kansas City absolutely dominated every statistical category, although I didn't think they were particularly good in the first half. They looked like a team that had been off for a couple weeks and had a bye week and weren't really in the flow. The urgency and intensity I didn't think was there early on, but that got corrected at halftime. I thought Peter Vermes probably went in, had a word about exactly that, and they came out in the second half with the intensity and urgency that you would expect from a team that has MLS Cup, has Supporter Shield aspirations against the worst team in the league, and they completely dominated the second half of that game. And it's just, another reminder, sometimes soccer is it's a crazy game. 2 clear-cut chances in the game against Real Salt Lake 2 weeks ago, unable to put either one away. They get a really, really kind of fluky own goal to open things up on Saturday. Then they get 3 really scrappy goals the rest of the game. Sometimes you don't have to create great chances; they just kind of find you. And so, Sporting Kansas City, we're great benefiters of that on Saturday. Get the result, move on, and it's 3 points. But again, Montreal just not a good team at the moment.
A thoroughly negative evening for Montreal Impact, Carter, but plenty of positives for Sporting Kansas City. What stood out for you?
I think what will definitely stand out is Lawrence Ullom coming in, and he slots in really nicely there for Rizal in midfield. And then, of course, with Collins' injury, he moves on back into center half, which we may be seeing him play throughout the rest of the season, of course, with Iko Paro's injury. So I think that was a positive that Sporting can take away from the game. But, of course, as Andy said, he didn't really have a whole lot to go up against. I mean, that Montreal midfield for me, what players like Bernier, Felipe, Malice, Warner, what did they do in the game? I can't name anything.
Non-existent, weren't they?
Yeah, it's not like Ullom had a whole lot of offensive firepower to be going up against. It was pretty much, okay, let's take a look at DeVio, and okay, we're good. And that's really what it seemed like. Montreal is a team that just isn't lacking any balance. They don't get forward from defense, and they don't get back from attack. So overall, Ullom coming in was a big bright spot for me, and he played well. But you might want to test yourself against other opponents and see where you come out as opposed to the Impact.
And of course, the evening went from bad to worse for Montreal with Marco Devaya limping off the pitch. Still no words on the length of that injury, but if it is a significant injury, it's a massive problem for Montreal. Whilst we're on the subject of strikers, Andy, one particularly caught the headlines on Saturday evening, and that was Dom Dwyer with a brace.
Yeah, it's nice to see somebody scoring fairly consistently for Sporting Kansas City. If you go back to earlier in the season, he had the penalty kick in the game at home, and then he scores the goal at Colorado to win it very late, and then he finds 2 in the game on Saturday. And so you've finally found a forward who has a little bit of momentum and really has that confidence that you want from your goal scoring forward, and like, he's never a guy that's going to be short on confidence. We know that, but just being in the flow of the attack and everything, I thought he was very good, so active on Saturday, and that's what's one thing that, whether the goals are coming or not, Dom Dwyer is always active. He's always involved, looking to cause havoc for that back line, and I think against a very old Matteo Ferrari and a very young, inexperienced Carl Wiemet on Saturday, neither one of those guys really stood a chance against the amount of energy that Dwyer brought to that game.
Before we get our guest on, I've got to ask you, Carter, about the other goal scorer for Sporting Kansas City. A very unlike Aurelian Collin goal, but they all count.
Yeah, they all count, and what a great goal. You got to give it to him. Through a bunch of bodies, he just kind of slings his foot at it and puts it goalwards, and you kind of trust Collin to have a few of those every year. I think he may have scored one similar against Montreal last year. Maybe it was a different team I'm thinking of, but just in the box, bunch of bodies, and he scrambles it home. And then he also had a really nice lead for Dwyer on what was that, the third goal, where he left the ball and appeared to pull his hamstring in doing so. That's how great of a fake it was. But yeah, he had a great game, and I think you have to give him credit for those goals. And as Andy said, they weren't the prettiest of goals, but they're scrappy and they all count. And at the end of the game, it's 4-0, and Collin definitely played a part of that. You hate to see him go off, of course, but hopefully he can rebound and come back into the side, because he's a huge asset not only on defense, but as you saw on Saturday, on set pieces as well.
No official word on Aurelian Collin's injury, but I've heard through the grapevine he should be okay to go in the next week or so here. In the meantime, joining us on the line is a man who's more than familiar with New England Revolution. After leaving Europe to start an MLS adventure, he spent 2 seasons at Gillette Stadium before joining Sporting KC. For many, he's the player of the season so far. Good evening, Benny Feilhaber.
Hey, what's up, guys? Thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining us, Benny. Really appreciate it. Do take us through the win over Montreal Impact then, and what you got from it personally.
Well, it was a good game for us, and obviously we had a really good second half, and I thought we played pretty well in the first half. Just needed to take out those couple of chances that we kind of gave them on the break. Having said that, I think we've had a couple of games now that we played well, and it was good to get 4 goals this game, as opposed to play well and not get the goals against Salt Lake a couple of weeks before.
Benny, it's been a sensational start for you in MLS 2014. Not that it wasn't in previous years, but what's been the difference this year for you?
The level of my fitness is different than it has been in the past few years. The understanding of the system that we're playing obviously makes a big difference as well to the beginning of last year. And, obviously I know the players, really well. I know the kind of runs they make. I know, the strengths of each and every player. So it obviously helps when you settle in, and I feel pretty confident. So all that stuff really helps, and hopefully I can kind of keep this going.
Benny, first 5 games of the regular season came against Western Conference opponents, starting with the East on Saturday against Montreal, and then the next 9 games all against Eastern Conference teams. How big of a time of year is this for you guys, considering that, and then knowing that the World Cup is very quickly on the horizon as well?
Yeah, I mean, it's important for us to be kind of clicking and stuff, and at the right time. Obviously, like you said, we're playing Eastern Conference teams, and that's pretty big to get the points now when they're all 6-point games essentially for eventual playoff spots. So I think we're playing well right now. We feel confident that we can get a win against any team in MLS. But having said that, you gotta show up for each and every game because of the how close teams compete in this league. So Peter will keep us going each and every game, and obviously continues this weekend at New England.
Benny, I've got to ask you, how much is Jurgen Klinsmann and the World Cup on your mind at the moment?
Unfortunately, not too much. I mean, for myself personally, I don't think, I'm going to get to go. I haven't heard anything to, make my, for me to change my mind. But if it happens, then it's a great surprise, and it'll be an opportunity for me. But if not, then it's nothing out of the unexpected, I guess, for myself. So we know that we'll have a couple of guys from Sporting going to the World Cup, and that's pretty exciting in itself. So we're going to be cheering for those guys to do well. And it'll be a fun time for soccer, regardless.
If you keep playing well, Benny, you never know. Let's continue and focus on Major League Soccer. Obviously, as we said in the introduction, you're very much familiar with the New England Revolution. What have you made to their start of the season and what they've done over the last 6 months or so?
Well, they've done a pretty good job in reassembling the team since when I was there, and they're a much more competitive team now. They got a lot of young players, attacking guys that are good for the league, and they play some pretty exciting soccer. And so they've made a big change from 2 years ago to last year, and made the playoffs for the first time in a few years. And I don't expect that to change too much in the sense of how they play and how they're going to be in the mix. So definitely a team that you got to be wary of, especially when you're playing them there at Gillette with the turf. They know how to play in that turf, and teams that go in there just have to kind of learn as you go. So it's a tough place to play, no doubt about it, and we'll be ready for it.
And just finally, Benny, I can't imagine the approach from Sporting KC will be that different from what we've seen at home.
No, I think we definitely tend to have a little bit of a different mindset of how we want to play on the road and at home. But having said that, I think we go with the mindset that we're going to get 3 points. I don't think there's too many places that we go thinking, let's try and steal a draw and grab a point. I mean, I think we want to try and get to 3 points, and depending how the game goes, then we'll see if any of that changes. But we know that, at home we're going to have quite a bit of possession. And maybe that's so as well on the road, but I don't know if it's as true. So you got to be, smart with the possession that you do have, and be able to, create opportunities, whether it be on set pieces or, on the run of play. I don't think we're ever going to be too much of a counterattacking team, but on the road you tend to have to rely on maybe set pieces a little more, or being a little bit more, how would I say it? Intelligent in front of goal, ruthless. So you're not going to get as many chances. So I think that's the the only difference. But having said that, I think we'll try and play our game and try and take away some of their strengths as well.
Benny Feilhaber, thank you very much. We'll see you in training during the week.
All right, cheers, guys. Thanks.
Thanks, Benny.
That was Benny Feilhaber of Sporting Kansas City. Before we go to break, chaps, obviously you two national team fans.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
Are you convinced that there's a spot there for him? I mean, surely if he continues to play as he is, in the form he is, Jurgen Klinsmann's at least got to have a look.
Yeah, I know Benny's probably downplaying it just a little bit and trying to keep himself focused on what's going on here with Sporting Kansas City, because there's still 50 days until the World Cup starts. There's still 3 weeks or so until that initial the preliminary 30-man roster comes out from Jurgen Klinsmann. There's still a month or more until the 23-man roster that's going to Brazil comes out, and so he's got to continue Again, Benny's saying the right things, I think, at the moment. But at the end of the day, it's hard to imagine him not at least on that 30-man roster before it gets pared down to 23.
I think that the problem with a lot of people when they'll say that Feilhaber shouldn't go, Carter, is that it's a very well guarded, it's a very heavy position, isn't it? That centre midfield spot with the likes of Maurice Adu, Jermaine Jones, Kyle Beckerman, Michael Bradley. There's a lot of central midfielders that can play there for the US.
Yeah, you'd think, that's one of the spots that doesn't stand out as being a need necessarily, but as Andy said, he definitely offers something a little different. I think maybe Sasha Kleshton's the only other one that kind of has those keys to unlock a defense, and you've seen Kleshton just doesn't really fit well with the system that
I like Sasha, but Benny's miles ahead.
Yeah, and Sasha's kind of struggled to fit Klinsmann's system as well. So I will say a year ago today, I didn't think there was any chance Benny Feilhaber would be in the conversation to go to the World Cup, but these past 6 months, the playoffs and now the start of this season, he's definitely forced his way into the conversation. As Andy said, I'd be surprised if he's not on the 30-man. Like you said, Cal, it is a deep position that the U.S. has. We're not the deepest all around, but it's one of our deeper positions. But with how much he works and that work rate that we've seen this year, it would be tough to leave him out of at least that 30-man roster.
It's the Sporting KC show live on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Coming up next, it's all about the global game and the surroundings in Europe.
This is Sports Radio 810 WHB.
For over 20 years, Summit Lawn and Landscape has been providing Kansas City homeowners with beautiful yards at an affordable price. Call them at 816-966-9434 and set up a free consultation. Summit Lawn and Landscape can take care of your lawn, help you plan and finish a landscape project, install landscape lighting, sprinkler systems, and much more. Call the company Union Broadcasting recommends. Summit Lawn and Landscape, 816-966-9434, or find out more at summitlawn.com.
Ford is taking the EcoBoost Challenge coast to coast, asking people like you to test drive Ford versus our leading competitors.
We want to find out which vehicle you prefer, and may the best car win.
Let's do this. I've never driven a Ford before, and I'm impressed.
They're experiencing the power and efficiency of available EcoBoost engine technology.
Wow! This car can go! It blew the competition away for me. Ford is totally on my radar now.
Get into the EcoBoost Challenge at your local Ford dealer and get ready to get floored. That's right, during the EcoBoost Challenge at your Midwest Ford dealers, see for yourself why Ford is a step above the competition. Plus, for a limited time, you'll get big cash back, low APR financing, and great lease offers on Ford's full line of fuel-sipping cars, trucks, and SUVs. Don't miss out. Go online to yourmidwestforddealers.com, then visit your Midwest Ford dealer to take the EcoBoost Challenge today. Not all buyers will qualify. Incentives vary by model. See dealer for complete details.
Books are a world of possibilities. They let the imagination dream bigger. They excite, entertain, educate. And now there's a book that does all that in just 6 pages. The Lucky Sevens Playbook from the Missouri Lottery. With 6 scratchers tickets, a top prize of $250,000, and 122 chances to win, it's sure to be a bestseller. But the best part? This book gives back to education, helping Missouri students make big dreams come true. So play it forward with the Missouri Lottery.
Nobody does steak and cheese like Subway. Stop by today for a tasty trio of steak subs that covers the full spectrum of flavor. Our hunger-busting steak and bacon melt is always a classic. Or kick it up a notch with the Chipotle steak and cheese. And if you want to bring the heat, try the Sriracha steak melt. Each member of this toasty trio is topped with melty cheese on your choice of freshly baked bread. Treat your taste buds at Subway today. Subway, eat fresh.
Limited time only at participating restaurants. If you have a loved one who's going to graduate soon, honor their achievement with a gift of fine jewelry from Shane Company. Present her with her first strand of pearls or her first pair of diamond solitaire earrings. We have the state's largest selection in every price range. Another great idea is our 14-karat gold charm in the shape of a graduation cap, which you can place on one of our charm bracelets. Then, with each milestone in her life, add a new charm. For guys, we have great-looking neck chains, crosses, bracelets, and cufflinks. Our cutting-edge styles are in step with today's image-conscious guy. Come to our store or visit Shanco.com for a graduation gift that will be cherished always.
Now you have a friend in the diamond business. Shane Company, a half-mile east of Highway 69 at 135th and Metcalf in the shops at Deer Creek Woods. Open weekdays till 8, Saturday and Sunday till 5, online at shaneco.com.
Sports Radio 810 WHB, the radio home of the National Football League.
Down the near side, and it's a touchdown!
The Major League Playoffs and the World Series.
Swing and a miss, and it's over.
The NCAA Tournament.
The 7th-seeded UConn Huskies go wire to wire.
And the official broadcast partner of the Kansas City Chiefs.
Touchdown, Kansas City!
Sports Radio 8.
Here we go.
WHB, the power of sports.
Welcome back in to the Sporting KC show on Sports Radio 810 WHB on Roku TV and 810tv.com as well. Callum Williams here alongside Andy Edwards and Carter Augustine. Let's talk about the surroundings in Europe and the surrounding stories in Europe. We'll start with the news that broke this morning in England. David Moyes, the manager of Manchester United, arguably the most storied, most recognised franchise in all of sports. David Moyes sacked this morning by the Glazers, the owners. I think this is something which a lot of football fans expected, but the timing, again, has maybe caused a little confusion, perhaps. But again, Andy, this was something we expected.
Was it? Look, I know it's not been a good first season for David Moyes at Manchester United. He's not adapted well whatsoever to just the idea of I am at a big club now. You're not at Everton anymore. He never really adapted to that. But I always thought he would get this first season. I always thought he would get the start of a second season as well. I know they had arguably the all-time greatest manager that preceded him, and so they haven't really had the opportunity to fire anybody. I didn't think they would be this quick on the trigger, though. It's very, very difficult to be the guy that follows the guy. You always want to be the guy that follows the guy that followed the guy. Right. If you catch what I'm saying. And so I thought he'd get a second season, or at least a start. The first 3-4 months of the season. But some of the numbers, you really, really can't. You can't deny that it's just not been good enough for a club of Manchester United's stature. They're 7th place in the league at the moment. It's been I couldn't tell you the last time they were in 7th place. And here's some really staggering numbers. And these are best case scenario for Manchester United. If they win out for the rest of the season, 69 points is all they can reach. That's the worst since 1990 to 91. If they win out, they'll finish 5th in the league. That's the highest they can finish. Same as the points total, 1990, the worst since then. 11 losses that they already have is the worst since 1989 to 90. So, that's a lot of really bad records to be breaking if you're David Moyes. I understand why they got rid of him. I just thought he'd get a second season and get a chance to actually build his own team. Because this is Ferguson's team that he's still got. And he's brought in Mata and he brought in Fellaini. But other than that, it's all Ferguson's pieces.
The thing is, for me, I understand people saying that, Ferguson had a torrid time when he first took over and whatnot, and they had a horrific finish in the league and whatnot. But for me, Carter, football, and in particular the Premier League, has changed so much since when Ferguson took over in the late 80s. There's so much more financial benefit from a good finish. There's so much more sponsorship involved. There's so much more pressure on managers these days. And quite simply, David Moyes just wasn't good enough to be Manchester United manager.
Yeah, well, speaking to the pressure, we looked at it today, and there's only, I think, 7 managers that have been over a year or something like that.
Which is absurd.
And only 5 that have been over 2 years. And, you look at Brendan Rodgers, who was just installed 2 years ago, and he's the 4th longest-serving manager in the Prem. So that speaks to the huge expectations that are on the managers of those clubs and how quick people nowadays are to pull a trigger and not give a manager time. It is strange for me that they would fire him after not even a full season. I think the timing makes sense if they don't trust him, because they're going to spend probably $150 million, maybe $200 million this summer. If they don't trust him, they don't want him buying, and so they might as well get him out now and get the word out, and then have a nice month or two long search for the next manager. And they'll obviously go with a big name. I mean, they could pretty much get anyone. So on that side of things, I understand the timing, but I just don't know how you don't give this guy a second year after he's following Ferguson. And I know it's a little different. Ferguson, when he came in, he didn't inherit a title-winning side that won the league by 11 points. But I just think that speaks to how great a manager Ferguson was. I didn't think that team was the best team last year in the Premiership. And I didn't think they were the most talented. I didn't think they were in the top 2 or 3 most talented teams. But Ferguson held them together with his managerial skills, and they wind up winning the league by 11 points. But you look at that roster, and wow, I think they've got a lot of dead wood that they're going to ship out. So I just think it's a bit unfair to not give him that extra year and that extra summer.
And that's the point earlier that you were making earlier, Andy, about him perhaps getting the first few months in the season. I think Manchester United have looked at the situation and said, we need somebody fresh with fresh ideas, and we need them to have a long time and build their side in pre-season. The million-dollar question, which I'm going to ask you both now, obviously Ryan Giggs taking over until the end of the season. Who's the next Manchester United manager?
Well, I'm not concerned with who's the next manager, and I want to ask this question to you guys. Why was Alex Ferguson allowed to pick the next manager, is my question. I understand.
Because he's Manchester United, with all due respect.
But, he steps down, he retires. It's not his club anymore. Why is he picking his own successor? I understand.
But would you not trust him? Because he's been the manager for 26 years. So you're going to trust his knowledge, aren't you? You're going to trust his view.
I remember us three particularly had a few spirited conversations post-show last year about who would take over for Ferguson. I always said it should have been Jose Mourinho. Right. You guys, weren't going for that.
I didn't think it would be possible, to be totally honest.
They could have had him. I just don't understand why you let Ferguson pick the manager, because he picks the guy who is the closest to being him.
Right, absolutely.
And that's never going to work.
Well, they're clearly looking long-term, weren't they? With him coming in, Ferguson clearly sees some similar qualities in him that are in David Moyes' ability to manage, but also by signing a 6-year contract, surely they're looking long-term.
Well, that's what you would think. And I do think that Ferguson, it was right for him to have a say in the whole matter. I mean, you look at Florida State when Bobby Bowden goes out. He has Jimbo Fisher. This is way over Cal's head right now. College football.
I'm with you. Keep going.
Yeah, but you have Jimbo Fisher. He pretty much picks his next in command, and then they do a kind of a transition where he becomes the head coach. And now a couple of years later, they've won the national championship. Obviously, it doesn't always end that way, but I think Ferguson, over his time and his tenure there, definitely deserved to have a say. And I think they just trusted him because of what a great soccer mind he is. And so they trusted having his opinion. I was surprised that Mourinho didn't get offered, and I think Mourinho was too, because Mourinho always claimed that he had such a close relationship with Alex Ferguson, right. And it kind of seemed like he was angling away from the Real Madrid job to go to Manchester United. Obviously, that didn't work out, and now he's at Chelsea. So it will be interesting to see who they get, because they can pretty much get almost anyone.
There was only one man that was not only not scared of following Alex Ferguson and not scared of that shadow, but thought he was bigger than that shadow, and that was Jose Mourinho. And for me, anybody else is a step down from Ferguson after the 26 years that he was in charge and all those titles that he won. Everybody's a step down in their own mind. They all think they're beneath Ferguson, except Mourinho. He's the only one that could have mentally handled that challenge, and I think they dropped the ball, not going for him.
I think regardless of whoever Manchester United pick next, whether it is a big European name or they choose an up-and-coming young manager, either way there's going to be several people that are happy and several people that are disappointed because it's not Sir Alex Ferguson and it's not somebody with his legacy. Let's move on to more pressing football matters, shall we? And at the World Cup, it's in 2022. This is not the World Cup in Brazil. This is Qatar. Yeah. This is, to be honest, this is quite a pressing matter, actually, because the Qatari football nation and the Qatari Football League have gone from using 12 stadiums down to 8, and this is somewhat of a disaster already, and here we are 8 years away from this World Cup, and we all kind of knew that something like this was going to happen. It just doesn't seem right at the moment, does it?
Yeah, the only thing I can think of is they didn't exactly budget all of the bribes into the total budget for what they were going to need for these stadiums, and somehow even Qatar has run out of money at this point, and they paid FIFA off a little bit too much. You said it's a disaster, and we're still 8 years away from it, and it's already a disaster. And every day we get closer, it's going to become a little bit more of a disaster. Every day that a worker on the side of these stadiums dies, it's going to be that much more of a disaster. Once the thing actually happens, it's going to be a logistical disaster in every way. I can't even talk about this. I'm still angry. The fact that the U.S. should have had that 2022 World Cup hosting it here. It's just I'll never get over it. I really won't.
Yeah, we're coming from definitely a kind of a sour grapes feeling, and
not me.
My biggest problem is when you make the bid, you make it based off these certain qualifications. We'll have 12 stadiums. We'll have these cooling techniques that'll be okay in the summer, something. And then now they're just backtracking on all these promises that they made, the promises that were vital in them securing the bid in the first place. Well, that and probably bribe money. But it's just frustrating that there doesn't seem to be any repercussions for putting all this on the table, like, oh, we're going to promise you this, we're going to promise you this, and then when they pull out on these promises, it doesn't matter. And it's really frustrating, and it seems to be leading towards just not a very good World Cup. And that's even more frustrating because I've been feeling this for a long time. I think this World Cup in Brazil is going to be the best edition yet. Yep. Teams are stacked. I think it's the most stacked World Cup we've seen in a while. And obviously it's in Brazil, which is just going to be incredible. Then we go to Russia and Qatar. And so it's kind of like, where are we going with the World Cup? And it's just frustrating. It's just really frustrating.
Frustrations will continue, nevertheless. Let's keep it into the realm of Major League Soccer now, shall we? And Orlando City confirming a day or two ago that the new stadium that they've got ready to start being built won't be ready until the 2016 season. So they're going to start their MLS life in the Citrus Bowl, where they've been playing most of their minor league life in USL Pro.
Yeah, I don't think it's a terrible situation for Orlando City. They've played there the last few years, like you said, and they've built everything that the club is to this point in that stadium. And it's not a disaster of a situation. It's not a disaster of a stadium. It's not like playing in a baseball stadium like we're going to see in 2015. And so it's better than that. It's currently undergoing some renovations, $200 million worth. They're going to have an entirely new lower bowl. The concourse is everything. Is it soccer specific? No, it's not. But it's fairly close, and it's not heavily used nonstop throughout the week when there's not soccer going on. And so it's a fine enough home for a first season. But what I really like about what Orlando City is doing is they're taking their time to get it right with this stadium. And as we've seen here in Kansas City, there is no bigger boost to a franchise, to a fan base, to the sport in a city than getting your stadium 100% right. And that's what they did with Sporting Park here. And look what that's become for the sport here in Kansas City. They're taking ideas from fans. What do you want to see in the stadium? It's your stadium. It really, they're the ones that are going to show up game in and game out, support the team, whether they're winning or losing. It's their stadium, and they're taking those ideas, and I think they're really going to look to implement as many of those as they can. I just think this organization down there, it's a really bright future for Major League Soccer if we can get more ownership groups that are as involved and passionate about it as Orlando City.
We'll move on and concentrate on some of the weekend's results from last weekend. Carter, we'll start with your game that you focused on, Vancouver Whitecaps 2, LA Galaxy 2. What did you take from that?
Yeah, I'm looking at this Galaxy team, and a lot of people have been grumbling early on that it doesn't look like the same Galaxy setup and how they might be struggling this year. And I think they're going to be just fine. I mean, you have Robbie Keane. Obviously one of the best players in the league, and then you can build from that. Ishizaki gets on the scoreboard that they really like him over there in LA, and I just think with Bruce Arena there, it's kind of clear that his coaching is going to be able to get them through. I think they have enough talent, and they're doing it on the road early in the season. They've already they've played a couple games less than everyone thanks to Champions League and all that, and so I'm looking at it, and they do this home and away series with Vancouver, which I think is not right at the beginning of the season, and that's a whole nother talking point. But I think they come away with plaudits, and I really see them pushing on and having a good season with some of their young players. I just think they're so well organized, and the 2 goals they gave up were kind of individual mistakes. So I'm not going to rule them out, and I really think they're going to be challenging at the end of the year.
And the game you were focusing on, and you called it as well on this very show, Columbus Crew won, DC United won. A good result for Columbus Crew and for DC United.
Yeah, I don't know what I called for this game, but this game, I think, as you said, it's a positive result for both teams. After you get 60 minutes into the game, you've got DC United up 1-0, and there's a point in the game where really Columbus should go down a man. About 70 minutes in the game, Giancarlo Gonzalez should be sent off. He takes down Eddie Johnson, denial of a clear goal scoring opportunity. So they should be down a man already. Then they go down a man for real. About 15 minutes later, Bernardo Añor is sent off straight red, and they're down a man, down a goal, with 10 minutes to go in the game, Columbus are. And so DC are thinking, all right, we're going to get our 3rd straight win, or at the very worst, we're going to get our 3rd straight result, and we're going to take points from this away game at Crew Stadium. Well, Columbus, they have this belief about them this season, and it's such a different team. And it's a lot of the same pieces, almost like Michael Parkhurst came in, and who else has come in to that team in this offseason? The Crew, that's different from the 2013 season, but they've got this belief in this system that Greg Berhalter has put in place, and they don't panic, they don't waver from what they know or what they are. They are a possession-oriented team. They go down a goal, down a man. They're not lumping the ball forward. They're not panicking trying to get the goal back. They're keeping possession. They're playing. They're going to create chances their way. They do it on the equalizing goal. Will Trapp wins the ball inside his own 18-yard box, carries it 40 yards, 40-yard diagonal ball to an open Hector Jimenez on the wing. He cuts inside, great goal. You know, they're mentally strong, and you wouldn't expect that so quickly under a new head coach just 6-7 games into his reign. But this Columbus team, I'm telling you guys, they're for real, and they are going to be the team that challenges Sporting Kansas City at the top of the Eastern Conference this year. The 2 teams are already starting to run away just a little bit from everybody else who's just kind of meh. And these 2 teams are the cream of the crop in the East, and it's going to be all season long, those 2 right there.
Before we go to break, let me ask you about, you mentioned one player there, Will Trapp. A lot of the time, a lot of US soccer fans are slightly worried about the fact that the US aren't producing enough players, and we've heard that several times. But goodness me, that's a player to watch out for, isn't it?
Can we not talk about Will Trapp, please? Let's just pretend Will Trapp doesn't exist. Let him go on playing his soccer the way he's been doing for the next 2 years. And then when it's time to qualify for the World Cup, then let's really hype up Will Trapp. Let's not do it too early like we do with everybody else. Let's let this little secret, it's a good thing he's in Columbus. Hardly anybody is really paying attention. Let that just build and grow. And he's going to be a fantastic player one day, as you said.
What a play on that goal. What a play. I mean, tracks back, wins in his box, and sprays out that magnificent ball. And and as Andy mentioned, that mentality in that team, they grab a point from being a man down. And we're talking if they're one of the better players in MLS, Higuain, doesn't lose the ball on a really uncharacteristic poor touch, they're not down 1-0, and they controlled the game. I mean, they had crazy numbers in possession. So, yeah, I agree. They're a really fun team to watch, and Will Trapp's a big part of that.
We'll go to a short commercial break here on the Sporting KC Show. Next up, it's all about New England Revolution.
50,000 watts of sports talk. Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Ford is taking the EcoBoost Challenge coast to coast, asking people like you to test drive Ford versus our leading competitors.
We want to find out which vehicle you prefer, and may the best car win.
Let's do this. I've never driven a Ford before, and I'm impressed.
They're experiencing the power and efficiency of available EcoBoost engine technology.
Wow! This car can go! It blew the competition away from me. Ford is totally on my radar now.
Get into the EcoBoost Challenge at your local Ford dealer and get ready to get floored. That's right, during the EcoBoost Challenge at your Midwest Ford dealers, see for yourself why Ford is a step above the competition. Plus, for a limited time, you'll get big cash back, low APR financing, and great lease offers on Ford's full line of fuel-sipping cars, trucks, and SUVs. Don't miss out. Go online to yourmidwestforddealers.com, then visit your Midwest Ford dealer to take the EcoBoost Challenge today. Not all buyers will qualify. Incentives vary by model. See dealer for complete details.
Playbook, take 1, rolling.
The new Lucky Sevens Playbook from the Missouri Lottery has 6 pages of scratches tickets with a top prize of $250,000. Norma, we could be contenders.
Cut. What was that?
Character development, something actors do in plays.
It's not that kind of playbook.
It has 122 chances to win. Just give me another 122 chances, Norma.
Please stop.
Every playbook gives back to education, so play it forward with the Missouri Lottery.
Hey, it's Lebo here, and with the weather warming up, I've got a solution for you if you've got a room in your house that doesn't quite cool properly. Check out KeepKCCool.com. You can learn all about Mitsubishi's ductless air.
He's there. I'll punch him up.
We like to watch a little bit.
He's there. I'll punch him up. His phone line's kind of iffy, so be aware of that.
These Mitsubishis are really easy to install, and they're at least 40% more efficient than traditional units. Plenty more info at KeepKCCool.com. That's KeepKCCool.com.
Here we go.
Check it out and learn more about Mitsubishi's ductless air conditioning units.
It's been a hard day's night.
Welcome back into the final segment of the Sporting KC show live on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Sporting Kansas City away to New England.
Drop.
On the line now, in a moment or two, we'll speak to Andrew Farrell, the ex-number 1 overall pick. We'll get him back in a second or two. Let's concentrate on the headline that came out of New England Revolution today, Andy. I'll start with you. The fact that the club have signed long-term captain Shalrie Joseph back to the Revolution.
I think it says a lot about where the Revolution are at this point of the season and trying to build a contending team this year. That Shalrie Joseph is the guy that they turn to. 35 years old. We know he's in the history of MLS, one of the very best players that the league has ever had, and a great success story of the early days of Major League Soccer. Somebody that was given a chance in a real pro league, was able to shine, and he was, make no mistake about it, early in his days, Shalrie Joseph, one of the very best players this league has ever had. He's just not the same player that he used to be, and there's a reason that he's not with Seattle anymore. There's a reason that New England let him go the first time. Maybe he can offer a little bit by way of leadership for this team, but I would just not be looking to get a ton out of him on the field right at this moment.
Let's go back to the phone line, shall we? Joining us, he was the number 1 overall pick, a standout in his first year in MLS in 2013. He continues to go from strength to strength, and many predict a bright future for this young man. Welcome to the Sporting KC show, Andrew Farrell. Good evening, how are you?
Good evening, guys. How are you guys doing?
Wonderful. Thank you very much for joining us, Andrew. Take us through the Rev season so far. 2-3-2 in Major League Soccer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, we've had some ups and downs in the season. It's been, we've gotten some guys who've been injured early on, and guys who've gotten red cards here and there, and so it's been tough to get our groove, I think. But sitting in, I think, was it fifth or sixth right now. Having the results we've gotten, I think we're sitting nicely, and excited for the game on Saturday. It's a really good team.
What about yourself personally, Andrew? You started 6 of the 7 games so far, and I know in college you played a number of positions on the pitch, but against Chicago you played at centre-back. Was there a little more element of confidence for you there? Because I know you've been playing a right-back for the last year.
Right. No, I think, I played centre-back a lot in college, and I feel really comfortable back there, especially, having guys like AJ and Jose mentor me, Stephen McCarthy, guys like that who can, show me new things that I didn't know that much in college that I've learned so far. And the transition's been easy, because we've had a lot of veterans on that back line who, help me and facilitate that. But I feel comfortable wherever, Coach wants to play me. I think either right back or center back, whatever Coach needs me to do, I'll play. But center back definitely was a lot of fun to play this past weekend.
Andrew, you mentioned the fact there's been ups and there's been downs so far in the 2014 season, but I get the sense from the fact that you actually aren't even aware whether it's 5th place, 6th place at this moment. There's no panic at all from you or any of your teammates.
Exactly. I think, last year was kind of the same thing. I think we were, bottom/mid-table the whole season, and we just made that run at the end, and I think it's a long season. Coach says it every day. It's a long season, and, every away game that you can get a point out of is good, and then make sure that we're really good and tough at home to beat. And so I think that's something that we've been trying to do all year, and, there's 28 more games left, and I think it's important to get points everywhere we can get, but no, there's definitely no panic. Just, the goals will come, and we're looking forward to the games that are coming up.
49 goals scored in 2013 for the Revolution, just 5 so far through 7 games in 2014. Obviously, the loss of Juan Agudelo was quite a hit for your side. But what's been the biggest difference, I guess, going forward, unable to find the back of the net as frequently as last year?
Right. I think, just bringing new guys in. I think with, Agudelo, even when he came in, I think it was a couple games before he started going. And I think bringing in, not having Kellen Rowe in for a couple of the games, and it's kind of like the same guys who were going at it last year early on. We haven't really gelled as well up top. I think we haven't gotten the movement down, and that happens. Some teams go through that, later on in the season, but, it's hit us early on, and I think as the season goes on, as we get, down to games where it's like more must wins, I think we're going to score some goals. We got really talented players up top, Diego, Teal, Lee, and Daigo, and Sayer. Those guys are really good, and the goals will come. It just takes a while sometimes.
Andrew, before you joined us here on the show, we were talking about the new addition of Shalrie Joseph. What's been the atmosphere in the locker room when the news was broken to you guys today?
Right. I just saw it on Twitter actually an hour ago, I think. So, but he's been in here since like second trip of preseason, and he's been huge, especially for the young guys. I think I know all the older guys kind of knew him, but for me, he's been so good with the leadership wise. He's been teaching me stuff that I didn't even know, like about soccer, and how he views the game. He's a really good mentor. And I mean on the playing side, he's been a little injured, so he hasn't seen much of him play so far. But when he played in preseason, he looked great, and so he's looking to add a little bite to the midfield. He's a mobile, or not a mobile guy, but he gets into tackles hard and sees the game well. So I'm excited to have him join the team. I've gotten to know him just in the past couple of months, and I'm excited to have him.
Andrew, obviously a good year for the Revolution last year, finishing 5th in the Eastern Conference. What's a good year in 2014, though, for your side?
Right. I think, the goals for every year should be make the playoffs, but I think this year we want to go farther. I think every team's goal should be win the MLS Cup. I think that should be the goal from day one for every team. And, sometimes you don't have as good as a team as you did the year before, or it's even better. And so I think stacking up against other teams, once the playoffs comes around, I think any team can win it. But making the playoffs first of all, and then hopefully get that MLS Cup.
You mentioned the fact making the playoffs last year, going out to Sporting Kansas City, who you'll face this weekend. What does a young team like the Revolution have? A lot of young guys on the team. What do you learn in your first trip into the playoffs and your first exit of the playoffs, and then going into the following season, what you maybe need to do differently, what you can take from that?
Right. I think just you get experience from that. You learn that it's a home and away series. You need to make sure you get the goals both in the both games. Depending on how you do the first game, you have to play a different style maybe the second game. But also just having that taste of a loss. Even though we lost to the eventual champs, it's still you want to do better. And so just having the experience of being in the playoffs and being in that atmosphere, and playing at Kansas City, one of the best places to play in our league, is amazing. And for me, I learned a lot just being under pressure, in pressure spots, and just have to play through it, and you want to rise to the occasion in those big moments. And so I think myself and all the other young guys, and also the veterans, have learned that we don't want to lose like we did last year, and push it farther.
Andrew Farrell, thank you very much for joining us. Really appreciate it. We'll see you Saturday.
Sounds good. Thank you guys so much.
Andrew.
It was Andrew Farrell of the New England Revolution. We're running short on time here, boys, so I'll ask you first, Andy, from a Sporting Kansas City point of view, changes, what are we expecting? You'd expect Rosell to come back in, but any more changes?
No, I think that's probably your at the moment, at least. That's your best form starting 11, and maybe the best 4 that works on the road as well. We know Sal Zizzo will provide a lot of pressure out there on the wings. The work rate is always going to be there, and a true winger, which is something I thought in the offseason Sporting Kansas City really needed, and somebody that'll stay wide and provide that width without the fullbacks having to get so far forward on the road. Like you said, Rosell back into the midfield, and I think that stabilizes a lot of things. Just having that a little bit of chemistry in there with Nagamura Nakamura playing in front of him and Feilhaber. The back line, we know when those four guys are healthy and available, they're always going to be back there together. And so, you've got that solid base to build from in this game. And Peter Vermees, it'll be the same game plan. It doesn't matter home, away, it doesn't matter Salt Lake or Montreal. It's going to be the same game plan, and they're going to go out there and look to execute and make New England really have to play through them and not give anything away.
Finally, Carter, what are you expecting from Sporting KC?
Yeah, I think it's going to be an away performance that is pretty similar to what we've seen this year. You look at Seattle, a perfect example, on turf, same kind of conditions, football stadium. I think they're going to get after it and press really well. And I'm looking more towards what the Revolution do, and especially with that forward spot. I think that's where they've been struggling this year. They've been creating a lot of chances from midfield. Teal Bunbury, obviously moving from Sporting, been struggling a little bit. So it'll be interesting to see if he plays or if they go with Bankston up top. So I think that'll be the main pressure point for the game and how SKC deals with that lone forward that they use.
1 minute.
As always, thank you very much indeed. My thanks to Carter Augustine and to Andy Edwards and our producer Rob. You can join myself, Jake Yardrich, and Diego Gutierrez live from Gillette Stadium, 6 p.m. Central on KMCI 38 The Spot, SKC TV, and right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Keep yourself on this station for the post-game show with Andy Edwards and Dave Borchard as well. But from all of us here from Sports Radio 810 WHB, it is good night. We'll see you all on Saturday.